Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic day today. A little bit discombobulated because timing hasn't worked out so well for me today. But hey, that's okay. We have our morning coffee. Actually, this is mushroom tea. And we are good to go. We do have to go a little bit early today because I have an Inner Circle webinar at 10 a.m. and I need to slightly get prepared for that. I'm pretty much already prepared for that. That sucked up a lot of my morning. But that's okay. I certainly do not mind. Before we get started, we have a few announcements. First things first, we're having a giveaway. We're giving away, over the next month, three entries to the Big 50 World Series Poker event. I don't mind giving away money to all of my loyal fans, so we're just doing it. We're giving away 3 of them. We have actually been giving away Mid-States Poker Tour seats, Heartland Poker Tour seats, etc., over the last 6 or 8 months. And that's going to be exciting. So we're going to give away 3 seats to the Big 50. I know that's an event a lot of you are excited about. You can go and enter that at pokercoaching.com/WSOP. I'll type that in the main chat here. pokercoaching.com/WSOP. You can go there and enter. It is a viral giveaway, so if you share it with your friends and they enter, well, you get bonus entries. So if you have friends, and they have friends, and all of that, you're highly likely to win the seat. So get in there and enter. That said, even if you don't have any friends, you still may win. One time we did a giveaway where someone who had 1 entry out of, however many, 10,000 total entries, ended up winning. So even if you just have 1 entry, you are live. So that's exciting. You can get in that at pokercoaching.com/WSOP. Second, big announcement for me at least, we are down to 4 people in the Global Poker Awards Poker Personality of the Year, the People's Choice Award. I don't exactly know the title for this. I've seen it called the Poker Ambassador Award, the People's Choice Award, the Poker Personality of the Year Award. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I feel like I'm at least some sort of an ambassador. And, People's Choice, you all have picked me. And Poker Personality, I don't know if I have the best poker personality, but at the same time, I try to be personable and useful to all of you. So, if I have benefited your life in any way over the last year, I would love your vote. You can vote at jonathanlittlepoker.com/award. Here, I'll type that in the chat. jonathanlittlepoker.com/AWARD. There we go. jonathanlittlepoker.com/award. The actual URL is a Global Poker Awards URL, but it's very long, so I made that shorter one for you. If you already voted, if you already typed in my name last time to get me in the final 4, yes, you can vote again. You're allowed to vote once in the first vote, once in the second vote. They say the votes carry over, so it's kind of hard to know exactly how live I am to win this. I guess I'll run down my opponents, the combatants. We're against Brad Owen, who I've actually worked with a decent amount. He's been promoting pokercoaching.com for me over on his blog. He's actually promoting this giveaway. And he's a great guy. Definitely one of my favorite video bloggers. He is there. Also, Johnny Moreno. I think that's how you say his name. Johnny Vibes. He's also a video blogger. Interestingly enough, I'm the only person who made the Final 4 last year and this year. Last year featured a video blogger, Andrew Mimi, who won the whole thing. But he did not make it this year. And that kind of surprised people that he did not make it in the top 4 as well. And I'll tell you why, if you want to break this down a little bit. There's only room for so many people from each category, okay? This year, funny enough, 2 video bloggers made it into the top 4. Last year, it was myself, Daniel Negreanu, Doug Polk, and Andrew Nini. Doug Polk, sort of the YouTube guy. Daniel Negreanu, sort of the old live pro guy. And I was in my mind, the educational guy / all-around guy. This year we have Brad Owen and Johnny Vibes. Both of them are very clearly video bloggers. Then we have Lex Veldhouse, who's been around poker as long as I have. We've battled together tons when he used to play a lot of live poker. And now he streams a ton on Twitch, so he's the Twitch guy this year. And then we have me, little old me. So we have 2 YouTube people this year, 1 Twitch guy, and me again. And you may ask, how do I continue getting in there, given I'm not a super popular video blogger? Well, I'll tell you the answer. It's because I have a huge email list, and I sell a lot of books, and I help a lot of people better their lives. I would say one big difference between me and the other 3 people is that I do a lot of educating. Now, of course, if you watch the other 3 guys' content, you will get educated a little bit, but I feel like of the group, I'm the main one in there actively helping people get better at poker and improve themselves, right? And I think that's very important. I definitely think I am not the most entertaining out of the group, but the group of people who I attract really care because they've changed their lives, right? I'm not just sitting around entertaining you, right? We are actually entertaining and educating. So last year we did not win. Like I said, Andrew Nemi won, the one video blogger. This year, I think I'm actually kind of live to win, and I'll tell you the reason. Last year, a video blogger won, right? This year, video bloggers' votes are going to be getting split in half between Brad and Johnny. So, Lex definitely has, by far, in my mind, the most visible audience, and he has the Poker Stars push behind him. A lot of people love Poker Stars, and I think Lex is probably a small favorite to win, maybe a big favorite. I'm not sure. That said, my audience is hidden. It's hard for people to know how many people I have. I will tell you all, though, that my email list is as big, if not bigger, than all the other people's main audiences. Their Twitch audience, these people have 100,000 followers. Well, we have more. But they're hidden. That's the thing that I think a lot of people don't quite understand, is that email list followers are very hidden. But the people you interact with the most are people you talk with one-on-one in email. I get, 40 or 50 emails a day of people asking me poker questions, and I answer them, right? If you do that kind of thing over and over, you answer people's questions consistently, you like become their guy, essentially. And when you become someone's guy, as opposed to just someone who entertains them, I think they have more loyalty long term. Oh, longevity is also an interesting thing. Johnny Vibes and Brad Owen both have been on the content making scene not actually that long, which is kind of interesting because they just started making video blogs over the last 2 or 3 years, which is great that they've had such a fantastic rise, right? I've been doing this for 15 years. I'm definitely the old person in terms of the content creation. We're the slow and steady turtle. Sometimes the turtle wins, sometimes it doesn't. But we were here last year, we'll be here again this year, and maybe we'll even be here again next year. We'll stick around. That said, if we're in the top 4 poker personalities every year, we'd be pretty happy, right? I'm not exactly sure how long Lex has been streaming. Like I said, Lex has been around for as long as I have. Johnny Vibes also mentioned that he's actually been around poker for a long time, too. I know Lex has been streaming for at least a few years, but I think he's actually kind of new, too. So we're the old people here. Y'all may not know this. I actually got banned from Twitch. Why did I get banned from Twitch? This was a long time ago. They since unbanned me. They banned me from Twitch because I was streaming a gambling game. I was streaming poker. I was, as far as I know, the first person to attempt streaming poker on Twitch. And they banned me. Then, a year later, Jason Somerville came along, started streaming. They said, oh, this is great. Then they made him a star. So go figure, right? Anyway, we've been around a long time, and we're going to continue being around. So win or lose, we're going to be happy. That said, we might as well win, right? So if you want to vote, if you want to help me out, you can go to, jonathanlittlepoker.com/award. Go there, vote for me. I would definitely appreciate it. If I've bettered your life in any way over the last year, that'd be very sweet of you to vote for me. TJ says you've been reading Mastering Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em. It's absolutely opened your mind. Good. I'm glad to hear that. So, today, let's talk about our main topic. Today we're going to talk about post-flop playability. Okay? I got this question this morning. Someone sent me an email, right? And they said this might be a topic for a little coffee. Well, here it is, right? This is why I think I have loyal fans, because someone sent in an email asking me a question, and we're answering it literally a few hours later in a 30-minute video on the topic. So we're going to talk about post-flop playability. The question was essentially something along the lines of, why are we 3-betting ace-8 offsuit from the small blind when someone raises? 3-betting it or folding it. Why are we not calling it? What makes this hand playable, right? Or not playable. Not playable to the point you want to be 3-betting it. And at the end of the day, the idea of equity realization is the most important topic, okay? Whenever you are out of position, you are very likely to under-realize your equity. You pretty much will always under-realize your equity from out of position. Now, what does that mean? That means if someone raises, you call big blind, they're going to win the pot a lot of the time because they are in position. So let's say we have 9-5 offsuit. Someone min raises, we call the big blind getting 4-1 pot odds. In this scenario, our equity, if you ran our hand against our opponent's range, is going to be, 40%, 38%, something like that. But we're only going to realize like 65% of that equity. There are a few programs out there, mainly Power Equilab, that will give you rough equity realization numbers. And the offsuit junkie hands are going to realize like 60-ish, 65-ish% of their equity. Depends on how strong your opponent's range is, right? If their opponent's range is stronger, they're going to realize even less. If your opponent's range is weaker, they'll realize more. So, in that scenario, let's say we're going to win 38% of the time, but we're only going to realize 65% of our equity. You take 0.38 times 0.65, I don't know what that's going to give you. Call it, let's say, 24% of the equity. That means you're actually only going to realize 24% equity in that spot. If you play well, which, you may not play well because you're out of position. Or maybe you're just not so good. But in that scenario, if you're facing a min-raise and you need to realize 20% equity because you're facing a min-raise getting 4-1 pot odds because of the ante, it's still fine to call, right? But if you're facing a 3 big blind raise, it's not okay to call because you need to realize then, 33% equity, but you're only going to realize 24. So even though your hand's going to win 38% of the time if you were just all in immediately, you're not all in immediately, you're going to play quote-unquote poorly due to being out of position and you're going to under-realize your equity. So that's an important concept. What's the base number of hands where you can accurately assess your hand histories? I don't know. You can certainly get information from any set of hands. That said, more is better. As you get more data, your, what's it called? I'm not coming up with the right word. Basically, how reliable the data set is going to be correct. You're going to get closer to the accurate answer. Okay, so I do a lot more with poker coaching and all of my content. Yeah, well, so that is an interesting thing as well, right? All of the 3 other people in the Global Poker Awards, Poker Personality of the Year Award, the People's Choice Award, they are very specialized. And, to be fair, if you look at these books back here behind my head, that was my specialization for a while. But we've since changed our specialization to be poker training sites, right? Even then, I am very confident I've sold more books back here than the other people have subscribers, right? And I know the data. I know how many subscribers I have. I know how many books I've sold. And it's interesting because a lot of people who watch video blogs and watch content, they're not as invested because they have not spent their money. You're going to find in business, you can ask people if they would buy something, and a lot of people will say yes, but you don't really know until they actually go buy something. And I know we sold a ton of books back there, right? And the training site, same thing, right? It's very different. We have a ton of people sign up for the free trial to pokercoaching.com, but then only 1 in 10 actually stay signed up. And that's fine, but it's important to realize that whenever you actually have to put your money where your mouth is, that's when you find your true fans, because these are the people who actually value your content enough to pay you for it. And the fun thing about Twitch and YouTube is that you don't actually have to pay anything. You can just sit there and go and watch. Which is why, at the end of the day, I don't think the major poker sites are doing the right thing by sponsoring a lot of people who are making free content, like Twitch streams, because the people who are watching are not actually invested. Now, of course, you can subscribe, you can do things like that, and those people are more heavily invested. And when you do watch Twitch streams, you are spending a lot of time, right? So they're heavily invested because they put a lot of time into it. But I don't know if those people are actually going to turn into long-term players, which is interesting. Whereas I know my people are in there playing all the time because for them it's a value to pay me $100 to help them get way better at poker because they know they're going to make thousands. How do we get on this? Oh, I do a lot more than with my content. I have a lot of content. Yes, I have a lot of content. That's something else I think is interesting because I'm not exactly sure how much the other guys spend, how much time they spend doing their work. Like I know Lex streams 6 days a week or something, so 8 hours a day times 6 days a week. Well, that's about as much as I work. Probably not quite, but I'm sure he has to prepare, etc., etc. Not sure how long it actually takes to make a video blog. Probably as long as you want it to make a video blog. I know that you can edit as long as you want. Anyway, the other 3 people in the category are definitely well deserving of this award, and I think I am too. So let's do it. Let's go win. Again, jonathanlittlepoker.com/award is where you can vote for me. I would highly appreciate it. Where are we going? Okay, now we're going to go back to post-flop playability. The post-flop playability, I just jotted down some brief ideas, maybe I'm missing some, but your playability is based on your position. Position is highly important because from out of position, you're going to under-realize your equity. Your opponent's range and your range, right? Your opponent's range, if it's stronger, you're going to under-realize your equity. If your opponent's range is weaker, you're going to be able to bluff more, right? So that's relevant. Your own range, right? As your own range changes, that also changes the overall equity of your range. Because like say you're defending a lot of junk, that's going to lower the overall equity of your whole range. That doesn't necessarily change for your hand, but it does under-realize that. Next, your opponent's strategy, right? If your opponent's going to raise pre-flop, then just check it down. Well, you realize your equity, maybe even more. But if your opponent's very aggressive, you're usually going to under-realize equity. How do you sign up for the Inner Circle? Go to pokercoaching.com/inner circle. Oh, y'all asked what we were talking about today. I forgot to say that. We're going to be talking about identifying high-level play and how to also identify low-level play and then how to address it. All right, let's see. You won 3 tournaments since joining poker coaching. Great. Glad to hear it. Clint's glad that 9 out of the 10 people don't join poker coaching because it's good for you. Yeah. Funny enough, actually, we used to have a 50% retention rate whenever we required a credit card. So why would we go to not requiring a credit card? Before, you had to have a credit card to sign up to poker coaching, even for the free version, which is what most sites do. We wanted to try something. We wanted to get poker coaching in more people's hands. So now, 20 times as many people are signing up. But, only 1/10 are now staying subscribed. So we're having more people total stay subscribed, but a way lower percentage, which is interesting. Hi, Thomas. Hi, Amy. How are you? Hi. What are you up to? This is Sir Thomas. Can you say vote for Daddy, please? That's the best he can do. He can't talk yet. He's a little baby. He is 3 months and I guess a week. 3 months and a week old. Isn't that nice? Yeah. He has to wear a bib because now he spits up everywhere. He's 3 months, 2 weeks old. I'm glad Amy pointed that out now because otherwise she would murder me later. It's very important to get the exact age right of your child. Otherwise, people think you don't care about them. But that's not true. We love Thomas very much. Thomas had a nice nap this morning. He's big for 3 months. Yes, he wears 9-month-old clothes. He's a big boy. You see Daddy? You see Daddy? Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. Daddy's all over. Anyway, Thomas loves you all. He wants to say hello. He's a sweet boy. Don't spit up in here. Bye. See you. Love you. Let's see. Do I have an official site? JonathanLittlePoker.com, I guess. Do you mean do I play somewhere? Do I represent a poker site? Nope. Nope, I don't. I would tell you to play on one of the big ones. How do you provide for people who don't have a credit card? Well, basically you just go there and you sign up, right? I'm not sure what you're asking, Glenn. Let's see. You all are saying a bunch of stuff. We're not going to pay attention to that right now. We have to get back to this topic because we're running out of time. It's a long topic, as you see. We filled out the page with notes. So, your equity realization changes. So, you should be very often 3-betting the hands that realize their equity poorly or folding them. And that's just based on the idea that you typically want to be 3-betting with a polarized range against good players and people who are not extreme calling stations. If they're extreme calling stations, you instead want to be 3-betting with a linear range. We discussed this all thoroughly at pokercoaching.com. So go get your free membership and sign up and go to the very first homework challenge, and we will address that. Do I always wear the same shirts? No. I have about 20 shirts. They all look pretty similar, though. It's funny. I was actually looking through my drawer, and all the shirts are either black, gray, or some shade of blue. I have like one red shirt. Don't know why that is. It is what it is. I think I have about 4 versions of roughly this shirt. Slightly lighter gray, slightly lighter fabric, slightly heavier fabric, etc., etc. Okay. So, which hands flop very well? Which hands tend to realize their equity well? Well, obviously the best hands realize their equity well. But the hands that most people understand realize their equity well are pairs, because pairs flop sets, or just made hands, right? Next, suited aces, because those flop top pairs, which realize equity well, and also nut flush draws, which realize equity well. And then suited connectors. And these are all the hands that people traditionally think of as being the implied odds hands, right? Implied odds hands are hands that flop either the nuts or nut draws. When you make the nuts, you typically get paid well. Those are easy. However, there are spots where other hands typically play pretty well. Like say button raises and you're in the big blind and you have Queen 9 offsuit. That hand's going to realize its equity pretty well because it's going to flop top pairs, overcards, draws with an overcard, right? It's going to flop a lot of hands that can very easily get closer to the showdown. And that really is what you want to ask is, can I get closer to the showdown with a decent amount of equity, right? So the hand values change, which is important to understand. So which hands typically don't realize equity well? Well, the hands that realize equity the worst are the worst hands. Like 7-2 offsuit realize equity horribly. 3-2 offsuit realizes equity horribly. Stuff like Queen 4 offsuit doesn't realize equity very well. King 5 offsuit doesn't realize equity very well. Ace 5 offsuit also doesn't realize it very well unless you're against a very wide range. Like say button raises and they're loose and you're in the big blind. It's perfectly fine to call with your Ace 5 offsuit. It is going to flop decently well. In those scenarios, it's going to realize equity decently well, meaning that you're going to make an ace high a lot, which is a pretty decent hand. Pocket 3's on the button, 4-handed, a shove over, or with 15 to 20 big blinds. Usually, you want me to answer your question above. Not sure what question was asked, re-ask it. Okay. Let's talk about from the small blind in particular. Say someone raises and you're in the small blind. That's a situation where you are going to drastically under-realize your equity if you call. And the reason for that is because, first off, the big blind can call as well, which cuts down on your overall equity, and that player is going to have relative position on you, meaning you're going to check flop, but big blind's going to check, initial raiser will bet, and then it's on you, right? And in that scenario, you have to act essentially before the player in the big blind, which means you're going to end up playing poorly because big blind's going to check a lot of their good hands, which means they have a very concealed range. So that's a spot that's very bad. You want to avoid that from the small blind. So from the small blind, you want to be 3-betting most of your playable range if your opponents are good. Now, if your opponents are not good, let's say big blind is just horrible, bad, loose, passive calling station, or say the initial raiser is horrible, but is not going to fold with 3-bets very often, then in that scenario, you should do a lot of calling. But for the most part, you want to be doing a lot of 3-betting from the small blind. And that is because most hands from the small blind will under-realize equity. From the big blind, let's now discuss from the big blind, which is where you will be doing a lot of calling because you'll be getting good pot odds. First things first, again, we discussed equity realization earlier, right? Like with the 9-5 offsuit. If you're facing a min-raise with ante in play, you can definitely call. With no ante in play, you definitely should not call. So the question is, are there better hands to bluff with than 9-5 offsuit? And it turns out there are. Some of the best hands to bluff with are going to be hands with a blocker. Hands that block your opponent's continuing range. So which hands are blockers? Well, ace high, king high, and queen high are all very solid blocker hands. So if button or cutoff raises, and they're generally loose, generally aggressive, like let's say they make it 2.5 big blinds, small blind folds us on you in the big blind, you can re-raise to 10 or 11 big blinds. And that puts them in a really bad spot. You also do that with a range including aces, kings, queens. Maybe not aces. Maybe you slow play aces. But kings, queens, jacks, ace, king, ace, queen. Just like your best hands, right? And that's a very strong strategy when you're playing 40-ish big blinds deep. Because you're putting in 25% of your stack. Your opponent's not going to want to call very often. So they're either going to shove or they're going to fold. And if you're perfectly balanced, then your opponent just can't win in that spot. Which is great. You're taking a lot of these junky hands that flop quite poorly, that are going to under-realize their equity, and you will now realize your equity with them. We have a question that Mem really wants answered. You played a loose aggressive player. You always called and raised. One hand you made it 50 without looking. All right, you said okay, then you went all in with king, queen. He said call and showed aces, and you lost. Did you play it wrong? I never trust people when they say they didn't look, and also you're going to have a hard time knowing they didn't look, unless you're just staring at that guy and ignoring everyone else at the table. A lot of people will do things like that. Now, if his range actually was 100% of hands, then shoving's probably fine. Let's see. You signed up for a week and you're liking it so far. I'm glad you're enjoying poker coaching. Do you like playing Jack 9? Is that a hand that you can play post-flop? Jack 9 suited definitely is. But again, Hunter, it depends on the scenario, right? If button raises and you're in the big blind, Jack 9 is great to call with. It's going to flop amazingly well. But if under the gun raises and you have Jack 9 offsuit, you're going to be very, very dominated and you're not going to play very well. So they're two different spots. Also, as your opponent raises bigger, it cuts down on your implied odds. So it's not just a question of, do we like Jack 9? It's a question of, what situation are we in? And this is what gives a lot of poker players fits, because they want very basic strategies, like always play Jack 9, or always re-raise with aces, or always limp with small pairs. They want to hear things like that, because that makes their life easy. And poker's not an easy game. We see Davey here. What's a good sample size before you can accurately assess your hand histories? We already told you this, Davey. We already answered this. And the answer was, as you get more data, your assessments become more accurate. 20K hands is fine. It's not going to be very accurate. I mean, the answer is what? 100 million? You get 100 million hands, you'll know for sure. I mean, it's like, what's your question? You want to know, you're never going to know specifically anything based on data unless you have loads of it. So what is loads of it? Like 1 million hands isn't even a lot. 1 million hands is what a good player plays in half a year online. And you can play a lot for half a year and still be well above or below expectation. So the numbers you all gave are not big enough. Play more. Also, stop trying to get a definitive answer as to whether or not you are a good or winning player, because quite often you're just not going to know. Take live poker, for example. In live poker, you, in theory, never really know, unless you play a whole lot. I mean, I've played a whole lot, and I pretty much definitively know, but I've played more than almost everyone. And most people think that if they play 3 times a week, a tournament 3 times a week, that that's going to be a lot of data. And it's not. It's like nothing. You need to be playing 2 tournaments a day, every day, for 10 years, like I did. Then you're actually going to have a decent amount of data. So always keep that in mind. So anyway, post-flop playability is an interesting concept. You always want to ask, am I going to be under-realizing my equity in this scenario? So how do you know that? You know that by studying. You have to study a lot. If you simply think always 3-bet ace-x offsuit, well, you're going to leave a lot of money on the table. Also, ace-9 is a whole lot better than ace-6, right? Because ace-9 flops more top pairs, and more top pairs with a decent kicker, whereas ace-6 is more likely to be dominated. So it's very important to understand exactly the situation that you are in and go from there. But in general, well, I guess we should also say, sometimes you don't want to be 3-betting with a polarized range, right? That also throws a wrench in the equation. Because if you're not 3-betting with the garbage, it means it's either just purely a call or fold based on equity realization, right? And equity realization is a very tough topic because it's not just as simple as you always realize, let's say, 65% equity with 9-5 offsuit. Quite often, you will realize more or less depending on your skill level. So I'm actually in the process of writing Excelling at Online No Limit Hold'em. I was helping Ape Styles, a very good player, John Van Fleet, helping him with a chapter. And there's a situation where we were talking about how he defends literally any 2 cards facing a min raise from button or cutoff from the big blind. And you may say, how can you do that? Because you just told me 7-2 offsuit's bad. It is bad, but he has lots and lots of data where he goes through his hand histories and shows that with 7-2 offsuit, when he defends, he loses like 70 big blinds per 100 hands instead of 109 big blinds per 100 hands, which is what you lose when you fold. But it jacks the variance up. So are you happy having a lot of variance, or are you unhappy having a lot of variance? And if you look at his graphs online, it's all over the place, right? Big swings. And that's because he's taking a lot of high variance lines. But it's very clear that through his data, right, he has lots and lots of data, he plays more than almost everyone, that these plays are profitable if you play very well post-flop. The problem is most people don't play very well post-flop. They call with the ace-2, the 7-2 offsuit, then just end up check folding literally everything by the river. And that's a big problem. You have to make sure you're in there fighting. That said, when you do defend, by the way, when you do defend from the big blind, understand, you only need to, like, you are supposed to under defend on the flop. Minimum defense frequency will very often be like 67% on the flop if your opponent makes a bet. And you should be defending nowhere near 67% at the bottom of your range, especially if the board is good for your opponent. Where did I play mostly live? It was purely at Bellagio for the most part. Do you have to pay taxes on your winnings? You pay taxes each year if you're an American. If you're not an American, I'm not exactly sure how it works. I have a fantastic accountant, Teresa Fox. Check her out. She has done my taxes for many years. She was a protege of a guy who did all of the legendary gamblers in Vegas. His name was Spike Gallus, but he passed away a while back. And I've had no problem. So Teresa Fox is amazing. Tell her I sent him. Kevin says, on Bovada, aces gets cracked on the board. I'm not sure what that means, but aces get cracked on every poker site. That's because aces are supposed to lose sometimes. Let's see. Is checking in the dark a donk play? Yeah, pretty much. To be fair, Marty, there are certain situations where you know you will check in the dark every time. For example, say someone raises and you defend with king-queen in the big blind. You should check literally every flop because the flops you want to lead are going to be low and middle card flops, if you even do have a leading range. But if you are going to have a leading range, you're never going to lead high card boards because high card boards should be very good for the pre-flop raiser. That means you have an equity disadvantage. So, in that scenario, when you have king-queen, if you know you're never leading the flop, in theory, you are checking in the dark. But if you tell your opponent I'm checking in the dark, that means you have exactly the big card hands, right? And that's really dumb to tell your opponents you have exactly big card hands. Because you just told your opponent, you just drastically narrowed your range if your opponent is paying attention. So no, yeah, checking in the dark's a donk play. With what hand should you be checking in the dark? None of them. Because if you check with some of them, if your opponents are paying attention, it makes their life easy. Don't narrow your range for no reason. Ben says another interesting thing about trying to assess large data sets is that your play changes over time unless you're stagnant. Yeah, if you play exactly the same strategy for a million hands, like let's just say I could push a button and go play a million hands today, my results would go, if I'm a winning player, they'd go straight up. It'd be a straight line, right? But if you play a million hands over 5 years, it's going to go like this, right? If you're winning now, it will plateau and then start declining. You'll start becoming a loser. Assuming you're not already a gigantic winner, which no one is for the most part. So your results will get worse over time if you do not continue to improve. And fortunately, most players do. Most people who I talk with, they are all working hard and improving. But a lot of players do not. I actually wrote a blog post for those players. JonathanLittlePoker.com/disgruntled. Disgruntled. Disgruntled. Not very good at spelling. So, a lot of people, they, in the past, were very good winning poker players when poker was soft. But as the game has gotten tougher, and as time progressed, they just didn't study. And they started becoming losers, and they didn't understand why. They're like, I used to be a big winning player. I was winning $300 an hour in 2003. Now I'm losing all the time. What's the deal? Well, the game got tougher, and they did not continue progressing. You read about a guy who won last year, and he had to pay 50% taxes, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about. There are countries that will require you to pay 50% taxes, especially a lot of the Nordic countries. But tax rate in America is like 40% if you are a big winner. That's what the tax rate is in America. If you make more than, I don't know, $250K a year. No, maybe it's like $500K. I don't know the exact numbers. I'm not the accountant. But if you make more than X percentage, you do have to pay like 40% taxes. You don't pay it at the table, though. You pay it to the government at the end of each year. Or if you pay quarterly because you're a business, like Jonathan Little is a business, you should pay quarterly. Makes your life easier. Okay, I direct you to a video about how to play from the small blind. Go to pokercoaching.com, sign up for a free trial, find a homework challenge that discusses that spot. I know there are 2 or 3 of them. Go to pokercoaching.com, go to the homework challenges, and you will find it. Let's see. You've put a lot of thought into managing your money? Yes. How much do you think you should keep on a poker site? Depends on your life, right? What about e-wallets, banks, etc.? Depends on how much money you have, Muggy. If you have no money, say you have $100 to your name, and you're using it only to play poker, just keep it all on PokerStars or Party Poker or 888 or whatever. As you get more money, ideally you should keep less and less on the poker sites, and ideally less and less online in general. A lot of people say, oh, well, I know Skrill and NetTeller and all these are safe. But again, let's have a brief history lesson for everyone. A long time ago, about 2005, I took 5th place in the PokerStars Caribbean Adventure. Ooh, let me see if they give me a thing. Let's see. Oh, watch out, shark. They gave me something that looks like this. I'll pop it out and I'll show it to you. They gave a little card protector back in the day for making the final table. And it would say on the back which tournament this is for. This is for a different tournament. This is for North American Poker Championship. They gave you a little 1-ounce silver piece. Anyway, that's what I got for taking 5th place. In the PokerStars Caribbean Adventure, this is back when it was huge, one of the biggest years. The year that I took 5th place, Ryan Doubt won. Very good player. He ended up doing a lot of stuff in, I think, sports betting or something. Anyway, it's irrelevant. I took 5th place. I got $320K. Isaac Haxton, you all know Isaac Haxton. He's the king of poker now. He took 2nd place. And he had all of his money in NetTeller. NetTeller was thought to be good, legit, safe place to keep your money. He didn't keep it on PokerStars because, it's a wise thing to do. And NetTeller got seized by somebody, the government, I guess. And NetTeller had his money for a long time. His money was locked up for quite a while. And this was an e-wallet, right? So that's a big problem. So clearly you should probably not keep your money in the e-wallets. Now, to be fair, the e-wallets have done a lot to make themselves way more legitimate, way more not shady. But at the same time, you never know. Later, the U.S. government seized PokerStars in full tilt. Money was locked up for a long time. I was very lucky. I had my majority of the money on PokerStars instead of full tilt. But even then, a lot of people had their money locked up. So many pros who were winning at like 1-2 no limit, who had 20K to their name, just had it all on full tilt, and their money was locked up for 3 years or whatever it was. And that's a big problem. So don't keep all of your money in one place. As you get more money, it needs to be more and more and more diversified. There's something wrong with my eyeball. I think I have an eyelash in my eye. That's what happens when we're doing a live show, I guess. But yeah, as you have more and more money, you need to be more and more diversified is what it amounts to, in my opinion. If you cash in a slot machine for more than $1,200, they give you a tax form. Yeah, listen, tax forms are very different than paying taxes on the spot. It's not the same. Not the same. You do not pay taxes on the spot for slot machines and essentially everywhere. Maybe some states take state taxes immediately. I'm not sure. But you get a tax form, and you do have to file those tax forms at the end of the year. But you get to write off all of your losses, and your losses are, if you're keeping track of them, that number. So it's very possible to be down even though you have a ton of receipts saying you won $1 million or whatever. If over 5K in a tournament, the feds take a cut before they pay you out. That is definitely not the case if you are an American. If you're an American, they do not do that. If you are not an American, they may do that depending on the tax treaties America has with your country. This is why a lot of Canadians don't play here, because if you're a Canadian and you cash, they do take off that percentage. If you make more than $1 million, tax rate is 39.6%. There you go. Thank you. Thank you, Fred. Anyway, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do poker players pay taxes on cash game winnings? How can it be proved? In theory, it cannot be proved, but you should keep track and you should pay taxes. I learned a long time ago from my first poker coach, you better pay taxes every year. Because if you don't, you can be in a lot of trouble. How much would you save max on one account? Oh, I guess saying how much would I keep on one account? Listen, I don't even know the answer for that, right? The question is how much money do you have? Also, if it takes you a long time to get money or a short time to get in money, it doesn't matter, right? Like, there's no reason you should keep a lot of money on a poker site. Why? Because it's easy using Netel or Skrill or whatever to get it in and out in like a second, right? There's no reason to keep money there. The question is, should you keep money on Skrill? It takes, what, 3 days to get money on Skrill? Assuming we're talking about a lot of money. Maybe it takes more or less, I don't know. So is it fine for you to be out of action for 3 days if you go on a 30 buy-in downswing? Whatever it is. That might be a smart thing for you to do, right? You go on a 30 buy-in downswing, maybe you should take a few days off. A lot of you are saying it's hard to prove cash game winnings, therefore you should try to cheat the governments. That is not good logic. That's the kind of logic that gets you in a lot of trouble some portion of the time. Some people you don't want to mess with. It's a very well-known saying. You don't poop where you eat. And if you're an American and you live in America, you probably don't want to poop on America. That's just smart. Do you have any advice on which games to play with a small bankroll? Small games. Do you ever play events in Oklahoma? I've only been there one time to play Poker Night in America. It was a lot of fun. But the problem with those events is that they're not big enough to justify traveling. I have a blog post about this. jonathanlittlepoker.com/travel rake. I'm going to write it right here. We have lots of articles. Again, for all those who are not aware of this, I've been around a very long time. And we have articles on all sorts of stuff. And some of them, I remember the URLs in my brain. You can ask the Fed to take out money in advance. Yeah, but why would you want to do that? You don't want to give the Fed the money because when you give the Fed the money, they can invest it and you can't. This should be obvious, by the way. If you win $1 million, don't give the Fed their 40% right off the top because you can take that $400K and invest it for a year and make 3% with no risk or whatever it is, right? So in that scenario, why give them the 3% when you can have the 3%? If you're Canadian, how much taxes do you pay when you win? Or is it a percentage? Just a percentage. And I think it's a lot. It's like 30% or something. But I'm not a Canadian. Danny says, you tried to send PokerStars $10K. They wouldn't accept it. They sent it back and made you lose the exchange on both sides. Yeah, why not, right? You get raped and you don't even play. All right. How did your interview with the doctor... I have not had that interview yet, Al. That'll happen eventually. What was the topic for today? It was on post-flop playability, but we're about done because I have an Inner Circle webinar. We're going to be answering questions from my best students for the next 4 hours. Maybe more, maybe less. We'll see how long it goes. We do this 2 times a month. You can sign up for that at pokercoaching.com/innercircle. I'll type the URL here. There you can have bi-weekly office hours with me. Dead Money, post a link for me. Thank you. We made the top 4 of the Global Poker Awards. Oh, let's see if I can show this. Let's see. There's me. There's Johnny Vibes. There's Brad Owen. And there's Lex Veldhouse. We made the top 4. There we are. People on Instagram can't see this. Sorry. Anyway, thank you all for getting me in the top 4. I appreciate it. You can vote for me at jonathanlittlepoker.com/award. I'll type that in as well. jonathanlittlepoker.com/award will allow you to vote for me if you feel inclined. And I would appreciate it. We are going to try to win. I think we are a worthy candidate. And if I have helped better your poker or your life over the last year, I would appreciate it. William says, depends on how disciplined you are. If you know yourself and know that you will not save the money, give it to the Fed so you don't have to worry about it. Listen, if you cannot put $400K, say you win $1 million, if you cannot put $400K into an investment account and forget about it, you're gonna go spend it on something, then you probably have bigger problems. But there are definitely people out there who make significant mistakes. Also, though, think about this, right? Let's say you give the government your $400K. Oops. Alarm's going off. It's time to do my Inner Circle webinar. Say you know. Well, say you win $1 million and you know you're going to owe 40K, or 400K, let's just pretend. What if you lose 300K this year? Well, now you only owe taxes on 700K. So now the government's just holding, what, 100K of your money? That's ridiculous. Why do you want to let the government hold 100K of your money that's actually yours? That's absurd. So you don't actually owe all of that on taxes. You may owe more if you win, or you may owe less if you lose. In tournaments, hopefully you all know, your results typically go down, 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 and then you have a big spike up, and they go down, 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 down. So usually, if you have one big score, that's probably going to be it for the year. So it means you're going to have a lot of losses to go with that. And that's important. What pointers would I give on multi-day tournaments? Realize they're the same as single-day tournaments. Play your best, don't lose your mind, and that's it. Leaving for Mexico tomorrow, Louis Philippe says. Nice. After a very interesting 1-month poker trip. Well, I hope it was okay. That's gonna be it for today. I have to go have my throat tea. I have this tea that makes it to where you can talk all day long. I learned about it when I was recording audiobooks. By the way, all these audiobooks back here, someone asked for a good recommendation to a book. I have many of them available in the audiobook format at jonathanlittlepoker.com/free. There you can get the audiobooks. If you've never signed up for Audible, you can get one of them for free. A good book to start, Strategies for Beating Small Stakes Poker Tournaments, or Strategies for Beating Small Stakes Poker Cash Games, whichever game you play. Those are very short books, they're easy books, but they will give you quick, actionable tips to make you significantly better quickly. Funny enough, most people who are recreational players only do a few things horribly wrong. Like 4 or 5 things. And if you fix those 4 or 5 leaks, then that's going to be great for you, right? Because you're going to go from being a loser to close to break even almost immediately. And that's what that book aims to do. It aims to help you improve significantly right off the bat. Anyway, those are at jonathanlittlepoker.com/free. So that's it. Kevin says, towards the end of the year, would you let the government keep your money? No, I'm not going to do that because I know I'm not going to blow it. And also, you pay taxes in March or April or something like that, right? So if you pay taxes in April and you cash in December, you get to keep the money for 3 months. You know how much money it is? Think about this, right? Let's say you have 100K. Let's say you can put it in something very passive that's going to make you 3% a year. If you get to keep it for, this is a rough estimation, but let's say if you get to keep it for 3 months, you're going to make 0.75%, right? 0.75% on $1 million is what, $750? Is that right? Or is it $7,500? Whatever it is, it's some real amount of money. Is it $7,500? That's a lot. No, we're talking about 100K. $750. Would you rather get $750 or not? Right? You'd rather get $750. So realize you're not just taking the money and putting it in your bank account. You're taking your money and you're investing it. So would you rather have a free $750 to put money into an account and forget about it for 3 months or not? Well, you should probably get your free $750. All right, have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. Good luck in your games. If you're in the inner circle, I'll see you in 10 minutes. I may be a minute or 2 late, but probably not, because it's important to be a responsible human. One thing I think I have over almost everyone in terms of content creation is longevity. We've been here 10 or 12 years doing this. We will be here 10 or 12 more years doing this. A lot of people come and go in this industry, but I don't plan on going anywhere. All right, have a great day. Be nice to someone, as Natty Witt says. I guess that's my tagline. Be nice to someone, have a good day, good luck, and I will see all of you again on Wednesday, 9 a.m. For those who are asking, we do this show Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, when I'm not playing a big tournament or something's going on. But I've been here pretty consistently over the last month or so. So we'll be here on Wednesday. If you have any topic suggestions, feel free to send them in. Thanks to all who did send in the topics. This topic today was suggested. We'll add it to the pile. Here's all the pile of topics we've gone through on a little coffee. Thank you for all of these topics, by the way. The vast majority of these you all suggested. And one day, when I find time, when I finish excelling at online No Limit Hold'em, which is going to take me forever, but whenever we get done with that, maybe we'll write a coffee book. All right, have a great day.